Is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about. Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
3, 2.
Welcome to DBL. Happy Monday, everybody. It's April 19th. I'm Jeff here with my friends Stephanie and Erica.
Woo!
Good weekend, guys?
It was
Wow, not a great weekend? Not a great weekend?
No, I mean, hey, we are here. We had days, and now we're back. How was your weekend?
Sometimes the weekend is
That
not
sounded
long
like an
enough.
answer that
It's
you-
not long enough.
You guys
is
weren't
it?
expecting the weekend question. You guys, by the way, you guys both look great today.
Thank
You're
you
matching
very
full screen.
much.
Maybe
As do you.
Maybe I'll just stick with a compliment and move on. How about that?
Okay.
Did you do anything fun over the weekend?
Well, it was Prince Philip's funeral this weekend, so I was very heavily into that on Saturday.
And we're going to get to that.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But right now, the American Country Music Awards were held last night, in case you didn't watch. While some artists did attend the event in person, Luke Bryan picked up his Entertainer of the Year award remotely. He's supposed to perform, but had to back out because of COVID. Maren Morris picked up 2 awards, including Female Artist of the Year, and the event also made history. Mickey Guyton became the first black woman to co-host the awards with Keith Urban, and Jimmy Allen, who performed with Brad Paisley, was the first black country singer to win Best New Artist at the CMAs. And the brothers Osbourne performed their new song called I'm Not For Everyone, which was significant because one of the brothers recently came out as gay. And there you go. I tuned in. My wife's a huge country music fan. I tuned in halfway through, and then we're like, we got to record this because there was way too many commercials. So we're going to finish it off tonight. But yeah, it was pretty good, and a lot of firsts.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, you mentioned Mickey
Guyton?
Guyton.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Nikki has been in the game for quite some time. I know that people are just learning her name, but really in terms of talking about the history of country music and the actual black influence, the country music, she was one of the first notable people that people recognize who really came out and talked about that. You know, some of the things that we say are very ingrained in country music actually do have a black influence in terms of black Americans as well. I'm happy to see this. I know I've mentioned before that I did country radio. I did mornings on country radio station for some time, and I am very I've always had a very diverse palette when it comes to music, but I think that country has very much found themselves in the same situation as NASCAR. When you aren't addressing things out of fear that you might be offending your larger demographic, then you will have a tendency to be left behind. And I do think that this is a way of saying, hey, we are all inclusive. This is the steps that we're trying to make in order to really make not only our industry, but our country really great. And I think that it's great to see.
That was a fantastic answer.
Oh, amazing.
I can't
top that. All I was going to say is I think, obviously, remember when Lil Nas X came out with Old Town Road? That was nearly 2 years ago now.
No, we don't remember that.
Well, it was a long time ago.
No, of course we remember that. It was
nearly 2 years ago, right?
Cultural phenomenon.
And then obviously then Lil Nas X was like saying about being a black man, releasing a country song and how challenging that was for him. And then he came out as gay. So I feel like he's really helped pave the way, like you said, like Mickey also, to also just like encompass way more people, people of different cultures, backgrounds, sexual orientations. And I think it's amazing. And we don't have really country music in England, but I love it. Now, since I'm not an expert on it, but I really like it now that I'm in America.
There you go.
I love that Little Red Wagon song. It's one of my favorites.
You like my wife knows them all. She sings them all. But I think you're right. If you're not including everybody, you're going to be left behind. So that was a great point. All right. So Sharon Osbourne, we're moving on, gave her first television interview since stepping away from the talk last month. Sharon was on Real Time with Bill Maher on Friday, where she discussed her departure from the show after her heated exchange about race and free speech with her other co-hosts. Speaking of Bill Maher, Sharon said she did nothing wrong. Let's watch.
I'm angry. I'm hurt.
But you always were a strong one.
Oh, I'm a fighter. I've been called so many things in my life. I am so used to being called names, but a racist is one I will not take.
And Sharon also addressed the alleged racial slurs she used against some of her former co-hosts, including Holly Robinson Peete. Sharon said they were just, quote, disgruntled employees. So Holly's mom clapped back by tweeting that her daughter is not a disgruntled liar. She went on to say that Sharon called Holly, quote, ghetto many times and also engineered her firing. So Sharon Osbourne not backing down, doubling down almost on what she said. Allegedly, I guess we have to say.
Yeah, and Miss Dolores coming through. Like, I love to see a mama step up and say some things because, you know, Holly Robinson Peete has been in the industry for quite some time. I've known who Holly Robinson Peete was far before I knew who Sharon Osbourne was, and she has remained a very unproblematic person. And so when you have someone who has been very problematic, as in Sharon Osbourne for quite some time, she was just never checked. And I think that's another reason why the Shannon Sharpe video has been going viral, because he's saying if you have a black friend then you're not ready to defend or stand up for what is right, then you don't have a black friend, you know a black person. So I would say that to Bill Maher as well, Maher, whatever. I would say that to Bill as well, who also came through and said, a lot of people say that I have a thing for black women because he's known to have dated many black women. I just have a thing for women who are real, they just happen to be black, but you didn't really see them. Just like Sharon Osbourne's friend, she didn't really see Cheryl Underwood either, because she wouldn't have dismissed her and done the very thing that we tell people to not do when a black person or a minority or someone who is in a position of oppression. You don't discredit what they're saying.
Right.
You can ask questions, you can engage in conversations, but she shut her down in the most disrespectful manner. If I did that to someone at this table, you best believe that we have true issues yes. At the core, and I am not calling you a friend. So she can be upset and she can fight it all day long, but honey, what are you fighting for?
That's right. Wouldn't she be better apologizing and trying to learn something from this? She doubled down in my eyes. She doubled down on this.
I feel disappointed in Sharon. I was disappointed, first of all, when she spoke to Cheryl Underwood and Elaine Welteroth in the way in which she did, number one. Then I was disappointed when, obviously, all the other Asian and homophobic comments came out that she said, number two, behind closed doors that we heard about, which was awful. Then we hear about her, obviously, calling the other lady ghetto, which, again, three things. I mean, it's not looking great. It's not as if it's a one-off thing and a genuine mistake. Then she goes to to the newspapers in England trying to get sympathy votes, showing these alleged unread text messages or unreplied text messages, to which Cheryl said, hey, I've never had these. And I thought that was very suspect at the time. And now she's going out saying I've done nothing wrong. So she's completely changed her tune. It's not looking good, and I just think there comes a point where enough is enough, and I'm surprised that she's been given that airtime to go ahead and say that. Like, I personally find it embarrassing.
Yeah, I think just apologize and try to move on.
I wish it was a bit more sincere, though, because it didn't ever seem sincere. It seemed like she was playing the victim card. Then she goes to the press and the tabloids back in England and tries to cause more drama, and now she's going out saying, you know what, I never did anything wrong anyway, and I'm the one that's hurt. I mean, if you lined up all those women that she called racist, homophobic, all these awful things she said, if you lined all that room up of women versus, I mean, I think it's clearly there's the masses or there's one.
Right.
You know?
Right. It's called the common denominator, and that would be Sharon Osbourne. She's a really great example of knowing when you should hang it up, because the truth is she keeps doubling down because she has been emboldened to say whatever she wants and act this way and dismiss people. And now she's like, oh, well, it wasn't a problem yesterday. Why is it a problem today? And she can't understand why it's a problem. It was never okay. It was just the fact that now people are opening up and not feeling as though their entire lives are going to be, livelihoods are going to be stripped away from them for saying this isn't right.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with anything, but you remember Rodney Peete? The quarterback, Holly Robinson Pete's husband, he used to have his football card and stuff. I was a big fan. That has nothing to do with anything, but I'm like, I knew of Holly Robinson Peete a long time ago because Rodney Peete, they got together. So there you go. I thought I'd just end with that. Coming up on DBL, Paris Hilton is here for the first time. She's telling us how she's fighting for abused kids and tells us how she deals with stress. And the Queen and her family paid tribute to Prince Philip, like Stephanie alleged to earlier. What you might have missed is his funeral over the weekend. It's coming up next.
Closed captioning provided by
After months of speculation, it's official. Democrats unveiled a plan to add 4 new justices to the Supreme Court. And look, there's a lot of speculation online. So here in the Verify team, we're going to take the politics out of it and just focus on the facts. So we're verifying, does the Constitution allow the number of Supreme Court justices to be changed? Here are sources. Article 3, Section 1 of the Constitution. This FAQ page from the Supreme Court website. Adam Levitin from Georgetown Law. And Paul Schiff-Berman from GW Law. Let's start with the Constitution, which reads in part, the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and that the judges, quote, shall hold their offices during good behavior. But the Constitution doesn't limit the amount of justices.
The Constitution has nothing to say about the number of justices, and indeed the number has changed. There's nothing magic about the number 9.
In fact, there were some big fluctuations in early American history. In 1789, the first Judiciary Act set the number of justices to 6. During the Civil War, it got up to 10. In 1869, Congress settled on 9 justices. And in the more than 150 years since then, presidents have tried but failed to change that number.
Most famously, Franklin Roosevelt tried to increase the number of justices on the court, and there was backlash to that.
So we could verify that yes, the Constitution does allow the number of justices to be changed. You just need an act of Congress and a signature from the president, something that hasn't been done in more than 150 years. Here at the Supreme Court, this is Evan Kozloff with your Verify.
Welcome back back to DBL like we talked about earlier. Prince Philip had his funeral over the weekend. You want to take it away, Steph, and tell us what went down?
Yeah, of course. So the royal family put on a united front as Prince Harry and Prince William walked together behind Prince Philip's coffin. Due to the ongoing pandemic, the service was limited to immediate family members. The Queen rode to the service separately in a car with her lady-in-waiting. She was married to the Duke of Edinburgh for 73 years. Once they were inside the chapel, the Queen sat alone. This was likely because it was a precaution because of COVID restrictions. And then after the service, we saw Harry and William spotted together. They were chatting and walking together along with William's wife, Kate, which could signal a sign of reconciliation between the brothers. Harry and William reportedly spent hours talking with each other behind closed doors after the funeral as well. And as for Meghan, we know she stayed behind in California due to her pregnancy, but she reportedly sent a wreath of flowers and a handwritten note for the late prince. I thought that was beautiful. I don't know if anyone else watched the funeral on Saturday, but the wreath was very prominent on the coffin.
From Meghan?
From Meghan,
Okay.
and oh my gosh, it was beautiful. So Meghan hired her favorite florist. So the florist is called Willow. Thought that was very fitting. And they did Harry and Meghan's floral arrangements for the wedding and baby Archie's christening. And I thought the lengths she went to make that personal were outstanding. So she incorporated roses, which were it's the flower for the month of June, which is Prince Philip's birthday month. The national flowers of Greece, because he was Greek. Sea holly, because he was in the Royal Marines. There was lavender for respect. Honestly, when you looked at the whole list of the things that she had incorporated and what it all meant, I thought it was beautiful. And what's inside that handwritten note, none of us will ever know, but I'm sure it was classy and a beautiful message. I was all for it.
You know, I've said sometimes funerals or tragedy bring people together, you know, so a lot going on with Meghan and Harry.
Oh, so much.
Maybe the death of Prince Philip somehow is bringing the family together in general.
Yeah, I don't believe in coincidences, and I mean, not to say he died because of the drama, but I do think that there is this kind of full circle, and it also gives you an opportunity. I think this story is far more relatable to people, everyday people, than we're really acknowledging, but it gives you the opportunity to take a moment to decide how you want this course to go. You know, if there is a rift and you're brought together due to a death, like, is your mortality going to take over? Are you going to be thinking about, let me resolve and live our best lives, or are you going to continue down a different path? And that is a choice that you get to make, and I think right now we're kind of seeing that happen in real time, what that choice will be. What's lady in waiting, real quickly? Did you
like your handmaid? Like, she helps her every day.
Oh, really?
Like her help, yes.
Oh, so, but it's a lady in waiting.
Yeah.
That's way more classier than, I got some help around the house.
I mean, she's the queen.
There
so,
you go. You're right. All right. Coming up on DBL, Paris Hilton is here for the very first time and getting real about her struggles and how she's using her popularity for a good cause. You don't want to miss it.
It seems like teens never get enough sleep, but the problem can be even bigger for children with ADHD. Now those sleep troubles have been linked to lower grades. Let's connect the dots. Research has shown that teenagers should get about 9 hours of sleep a night, but thanks to school and social demands, that doesn't always happen. The problem is even worse for teens with ADHD, who report lower quality sleep than their counterparts. In fact, doctors used to think sleep deprivation could be to blame for ADHD. Now a researcher at Cincinnati Children's Hospital has done a sleep study on students, half with ADHD, half without. 20% of the kids with ADHD got less than 7 hours of sleep on school nights. In the other group, that number was 10%. That lack of sleep was associated with lower test scores for both groups. So what can parents and teens do? Keep beds for sleep only. That helps train the brain to associate going to bed with going to sleep. Also keep a strict bedtime routine. That helps all teens, but especially kids with ADHD. The study's author even suggests teachers should keep an eye out for sleepy kids so they can alert parents there's a problem.
Welcome back to DBL. A lot has happened since Paris Hilton's rise to fame in the early 2000s. She's now a DJ and a businesswoman, but she also fights for boarding school reform after sharing her own story of abuse she suffered as a teen. How is Paris able to do it all? She told us her secret in today's Chatting with the Stars.
Joining us now is Paris Hilton. Thank you so much, Paris, for stopping by. Now, we can't wait to hear about your secret to stress relief. I think we could all use it right now amidst a pandemic. But first, speaking of stressful, as a fierce advocate for boarding school reform, what were you feeling last week when Utah passed a law that you championed, by the way? I'm so proud of you, for more oversight to prevent the abuse.
Thank you. It was one of the most empowering days of my life, just to know that everything that happened to me back when I was a teenager at the school would now be illegal today. So it was stressful as well, though, just having to get up on stage and do a whole speech in front of the governor and all the senators and everyone there. But I have just never been so proud of my life, and I've been working so hard to pass this bill. And next, we're going to be taking it to a federal level so that in all 50 states, it'll be illegal to abuse children the way they are.
Unbelievable, Paris.
Yeah, I know that you've heard from so many people who have been in your situation, but the amount of truth that you actually shared just liberated so many people, and I know they're very, very grateful for that. So with your podcast and documentary, you also reveal that the world underneath your picture-perfect life that we all saw, you actually struggled deeply while you were in the spotlight. So walk us through some of those struggles and how you ended up in a better place now.
It was very difficult to do in the beginning because I've always wanted to portray this, perfect fairy tale life. But in reality, I had been through so many traumatic experiences, and, so many things have happened to me that have been very painful and hurtful and have stressed me out. And it's been very hard, but I think it's important to talk about things, and doing the documentary was so healing. I've never felt better or been in a better place in my life, and I'm very happy.
So Paris, let's go back to you coming up again, right? Because you were pioneering social media, you were all over the tabloids. What do you think it would have been like coming up with social media the way it is today? Because it wasn't really prevalent back then.
I feel very lucky that I grew up before all this social media, because I just can't imagine the stress of being, a teenage girl and having to deal with the pressures of social media, with people, online trolls, and having to care about likes, and just, it's so much stress. So my heart really goes out to, all the young people who are dealing with that right now.
You just hit the nail on the head. There is a stigma, right? And we talk about mental health on this show all the time. I talk about the fact that I deal with anxiety, I deal with depression, I deal with stress. So tell me more about your supplement, because I really do believe that now more than ever, we need it.
Well, with Reset, I actually was a customer at first. I was on set shooting the billboards for my documentary, and I was so exhausted and so stressed out. And then the photographer, Brendan Forbes, told me about Reset, and he was like, try these supplements. And I took them, and then literally within an hour, I was feeling just less stressed. I was having focus. I was feeling just more alive and happy. And I loved the product so much that now I decided to be an investor.
Wow. Well, before we let you go, Paris, I just have to ask, because you have this podcast, and it's not just that you're being transparent with your testimony, but you're bringing other people on to do the same. And I call my podcast my therapy. That's a part of how I keep mentally well. So I'm curious, who is your dream guest for your podcast?
I think Madonna would be a lot of fun to interview.
Madonna would be gold.
Yes.
I can't believe she hasn't been on your podcast yet. Let's put that out to the universe.
I don't even know if she does podcasts, but that would be pretty cool.
If anybody can make it happen, you can make it happen. Let's get Madonna on your podcast. Thank you so much for joining us here in DBL. If you're like us and you cannot get enough of Paris, make sure to check out This Is Paris, her podcast and documentary series on YouTube. If you want to unwind like Paris too and de-stress, which we all deserve that self-care, head over to parisreset.com for more info. Their website is on your screen. DBL will be right back. Thank you, Paris.
Thank you. Bye.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
Verify is all about fact-checking the suspicious things you see online and answering your questions. Several viewers emailed the team about this one, including John Selhorn from Potomac Falls, Virginia. He wants us to verify, is it true that the COVID-19 vaccines are only effective for 6 months? We brought that question to our experts, our two favorite Williams, Dr. William Schaffner, an infectious diseases professor at Vanderbilt University Medical Center, and Dr. William Moss, the executive director of the International Vaccine Access Center at Johns Hopkins. So what's up with this 6-month stat? Well, it's actually pretty straightforward. Our experts explain that that's roughly how long it's been since those very first patients got a dose.
The clock is ticking. We're measuring it. We can't tell you any longer than that because we've only used the vaccines for 6 months. So hold on. We all think that these vaccines last, given their protection, last longer than 6 months. But we'll tell you that as we continue to measure the duration of protection.
The other William agrees.
And that's why it's important, for example, that the phase 3 trial actually be allowed to continue the initial phase 3 trial, the follow-up of those individuals out 2 or 3 years to look at the duration of protection. So I think whenever they say, like, you know, the duration of protections they'll say at least 3 months or at least 6 months, because basically that's just how much time we've had.
The CDC also says that at this point, they don't know how long protection lasts. So we could verify that no. Our experts say it's not that the COVID vaccines will only work for 6 months. What can be said is that they're effective for at least 6 months because that's the data we have. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozloff.
Welcome back to DBL. So, Steph, we were chatting a little bit about the funeral service at the break. So now, do you think Prince William and Prince Harry will come out with a joint statement, maybe reconciling? No?
I don't think there's going to be a joint statement, but I think it just goes to show the royal family are just a regular family, and sadly they don't get to air their dirty laundry in private. It's a given for the world to see, but I'm hoping that they've had a bit of a chance to share some words and love and rebuild some bridges. But I honestly thought the service was spectacular. It saved the British taxpayers, I'm sure, millions of dollars because it didn't close down the streets and it was a very private ceremony. Adored that. I loved how the BBC covered it. I thought CNN's coverage was terrible. Sorry, CNN, but it was. I thought that the BBC did a wonderful job. The commentary, everything was out of this world, and I think Prince Philip would have been incredibly proud.
What would you give to be a fly in that wall with the brothers talking to each other?
Oh, quite a fair bit, actually.
You and everybody in England, right?
Yeah, I want to know what's going on and what they were talking about.
Because if they're just like every other family, it got heated. I bet.
Yeah, everyone's emotional. Everyone.
There you go, guys. Have a great Monday. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place.
Bye.